This happened just last year. My buddy Jimmy, he's one of those guys who somehow ends up knowing everyone in a scene, has made a name for himself in the East Coast music world. Not just any music either. I'm talking the dance and electronic scene. New Jersey, New York, Philly, that whole stretch. And when I say he's made a name, I don't mean just passing recognition. Everyone in our circle was going. Jimmy asked if I wanted to come early and ride down with him. I said absolutely. The guy and his team built a company that throws massive events at some of the hottest clubs around. The real deal venues. Places people drive hours to get to. This was that warm, loose-limbed, barely making sense kind of drunk. But we weren't stumbling or vomiting or anything like that. We'd hit that late-night point in any party where people either figured out how they were getting home or who they were going home with. We're not in college anymore. We know how to handle ourselves. But still, let's be honest, this was the Jersey Shore. I might be butchering their names, but that's what I remember. And for some reason, that gives you an edge around here. Marcella said her place was nearby, right on the sand and way nicer than the Airbnb we were crashing at. Like some kind of museum crossed with a showroom. It was beautiful and cold at the same time. Gianna stayed with me, and things started getting more intimate. She leaned in to kiss me, and that's the last clear moment I remember. She wasn't wrong. When we got there, my jaw nearly dropped. The house looked like something out of a celebrity home tour. Big, modern, beach-facing. It was lit up just enough to show off how extravagant it was, without being tacky. I've never fully understood it, but height seems to be the primary currency when it comes to flirting at the Jersey Shore. Things like, hey, we're safe, crashing at a buddy's place, great night. But I didn't remember sending a single one of them. Just an instant cut to black, like someone flipped a switch in my brain. But here's the thing, I didn't pass out. I know that for a fact. Because the next morning, I looked at my phone and saw a string of text messages sent by me. And more than that, they had this energy. Confident, sharp, intelligence, charm, irrelevant, just be tall. They were gorgeous. Like they weren't just out partying, they were commanding the room. Meeting someone and riding the night out together was kind of part of the scene. The danger with this level of drinking wasn't that we were going to embarrass ourselves. It was that our impulse control had basically left the building, which, unfortunately, is exactly what makes the rest of this story possible. Now, I'm not really in that world. I like music, sure, but I can't tell you the difference between a headliner and a house DJ. Still, even I know that some of the names Jimmy's pulled in are huge, borderline famous even. He's never name-dropped to impress me, but other people have told me enough to realize just how far he's taken this thing. We made the hour-and-a-half drive down, got there maybe 4 hours before the doors opened. We drank. The more I try to remember, the blurrier it gets. But I do know that Marcella was the one who suggested the 4 of us leave together and keep the party going somewhere else. Gianna handed us each another drink and said we had to get on their level before we headed out, which, in hindsight, should have been a red flag. I'd already had enough alcohol to float a boat, but we weren't thinking clearly. While Jimmy and his crew were running around setting up lights, stages, and whatever else, Ryan and I, well, we started drinking. Anyway, I've known Jimmy practically my whole life. We were a few drinks in before the music even started. By the time the first DJ got on, we were more than tipsy. We were halfway to blackout. But it was 4th of July, right? It felt justified. Everyone else was partying, so why shouldn't we? I don't pay a dime for his events. We grew up on the same street, went to the same schools, shared way too many dumb inside jokes over the years. He's basically family at this point. Because of that, he always hooks me up. He just waves me and a few of our hometown buddies through the door, hands us wristbands, and suddenly we're in the VIP section, hanging with the performers. It's wild. Honestly, I don't say thank you nearly enough. Last 4th of July weekend, Jimmy was gearing up for his biggest show yet, a beachfront venue down at the Jersey Shore. So, it was me, Jimmy, and our other close friend Ryan. The venue had an open bar for the staff and performers, and as honorary freeloaders, Ryan and I had access too. The girls led us out of the venue and toward the beach. A couple hours later, we were fully wasted, and I'm not talking fun buzzed either. The night wore on, the music thumped, and the crowd thinned. Jimmy had booked an Airbnb close by and told both Ryan and me we had beds waiting, so no problem there. So Ryan and I made our way to the bar where we started chatting with two girls, Gianna and Marcella. Now, neither Ryan nor I are model material, but we're both tall over 6 feet, my parents, a couple of coworkers, even a girl I'd been texting. All of them casual, friendly, and coherent. The details from this point get fuzzy. Then we left. We went inside and took our shoes off like we were told. I remember standing in this ridiculously elegant living room. Sculptures, minimalist lighting. After a few minutes, Ryan and Marcella disappeared into another part of the house. Not the kiss itself, just her leaning in. Then nothing. Total blackout. No dizziness, no sense of fading out. To Jimmy, and I wasn't alone, because when I finally came to, I wasn't in the house. I was in a random patch of bush somewhere far from the Jersey Shore, and I wasn't wearing my clothes. When I finally woke up, the sun was high in the sky, no clouds, no cover, just straight up daylight pounding down on me. My head felt like it had been cracked open and stitched back together with sandpaper. For a few seconds, I didn't move. I just lay there, staring at the treetops, not even fully sure what was real and what was still leftover green fog. It wasn't just the wrong fit, it was all wrong. My wallet? Gone. Keys? Gone. No venue. No familiar buildings. Wherever I was far from the party. Far from safety? Phone? Also gone. My heart was already racing, but now the fear started to build in layers. First confusion, then dread, then outright panic. Not even Ryan's. The jeans were too short, and the shirt smelled like someone else. I looked around, nothing but trees, bushes, and a winding road that curved into more woods. No beach. The only things still mine were my shoes, and even those looked wrong. No way was I calling my parents, not like this. Dumped our phones in a parking lot, and coordinated weirdly coherent text messages to multiple people. She picked up fast, and I launched into a rambling version of the night, hoping she could give me some kind of anchor. She was already worried, but managed to stay calm enough to give me Ryan's number. Same strange outfit. Same bizarre wake-up location miles away from the shore. That was all the confirmation I needed. The laces were missing, and they were soaked through like I'd walked through a river in them. Then I realized something was seriously wrong. What if he was still out there? Drugged, lost, maybe worse? I wasn't wearing my clothes. No words. Just this unspoken understanding that something real, something serious had happened to us. Then we hugged, clapped each other on the back like we'd just survived a war. It looked weirdly out of place among the empty trees and roadside grass, but I locked onto it like a lifeline. I stumbled across the road, still woozy, still not sure if I was about to throw up or pass out again. Swapped them with strangers. That's not a drunken mistake. That's something else entirely. I walked in barefoot by that point, since my waterlogged shoes were falling apart. Plus, there was the clothing switch, the untouched bank cards, the location an hour away. Same memory gap. Whatever had happened to me hadn't been a one-off. This wasn't a coincidence. It was something deliberate, something organized. Their questions got more skeptical. Were we sure we hadn't just been too drunk? Maybe we wandered off on our own? And they all sounded like I was in control. Like I'd had a regular night and just decided to call it early. I thanked Jimmy for the event. I told my dad I found a couch to crash on. I messaged a girl saying I was home and thinking about her. But here's the weirdest part. None of them made sense when you put them together. They contradicted each other. It was like someone had written them out just to create a trail, a fake version of what happened, probably deciding if I was a junkie or a scammer. But then he pushed the phone toward me, said he even drove to the Airbnb we were supposed to be at just in case we stumbled back there. When he heard where we'd ended up, he was stunned. But none that let you move around, send messages, have full conversations, and then leave you with absolutely no memory of it. Not without causing other effects. Not without some kind of crash. And when he heard our full story, he was quiet for a long time before saying what we were already thinking. We been drugged. We told them everything step by step. The girls, the beach house, the sudden blackout, the missing belongings, the texts we couldn't remember sending. At first, the cops seemed to take it seriously, but then the tone shifted. We described it, gave them the area, told them it was right on the beach. But they brushed it off, said it probably wasn't even the girls' place. Maybe they'd just snuck in. Or maybe we were mixing up details because of how drunk we'd been. Either way, they didn't have time to chase ghosts. Gave us their cards and told us to call if we remembered anything more. Maybe we lost track of time and just passed out? I sat up slowly. The kind of slow where your body is trying to delay whatever bad news it knows is coming. The only sign of life was a 7-Eleven maybe 200 feet away across the street. Told me, it happens more than you think. The guy behind the counter looked at me like I'd crawled out of a swamp. I couldn't blame him. Can I use your phone? I asked. Mine was stolen. He didn't say anything for a second. The only number I still had memorized was my sister's. I called him. No answer. He said he'd been freaking out, checking in with everyone trying to find us. I called again. Still nothing. Why not use our cards? Why change our clothes? Why not just dump us in an alley? That's when the worst thoughts started swirling. What if the same thing happened to Ryan? Back to the shore. Back to the beach. We needed answers, or at least closure. I was just about to call the police when the door to the 7-Eleven opened, and in walked Ryan. We stared at each other for a long moment. He looked just as messed up as I felt wearing clothes that weren't his, shoes untied, eyes bloodshot and glassy. He told me his side of the story, and it was almost identical. We called the police from the store, and to their credit, they arrived pretty fast. I told them straight up There's no way we drunkenly stumbled into a different town, took off our clothes. One of the officers gave me that college kid smirk. We asked them to help us find the house, the one Marcella had said was hers. And then they left. Ryan and I just stood there, completely shell-shocked. Once they were gone, I finally checked my phone. And that's when the story got even weirder. There were texts from me to people I hadn't talked to in weeks. I called Jimmy. He picked up fast. But that didn't explain everything. Sure, there are drugs that can knock you out. If this was just a robbery, why go to such elaborate lengths? None of it added up, and so we decided to go back. And that's when things got even more bizarre. A few days later, still rattled and restless, Ryan and I drove back down to the shore. Neither of us had been able to shake that feeling that we were part of something way bigger than a simple party gone wrong. The same beach. The same humid air. We weren't even sure what we were hoping to find. Maybe the house. Maybe the girls. Maybe something that would jog our memories and fill in those empty hours. It wasn't just the fear of being drugged. It was the logistics, the intentionality, the gaps that made no sense. We retraced our steps as best we could, walking along the same stretch of boardwalk we remembered from that night. And somehow, we found it. He had this kind of relaxed but guarded look, like he didn't get many surprise visitors. I took the lead. The house. The one Marcella had said was hers. Still as extravagant as we remembered. Still perched just off the beach, like it was plucked from a magazine. He actually chuckled. Said he had no idea who Marcella was, but that people sneaking onto properties down here wasn't unheard of, especially during party weekends. We walked right up to the door, exchanged a nervous glance, and rang the bell. Like we had stepped into something ugly, something that hadn't finished with us yet. But for what? We checked. Nothing. No incisions, no bruises. Just the clothes. A trial for something more sinister that didn't quite go all the way. Like they were practicing. The blackout. The memory loss. Even told them we'd found the man who lived there. But they just shrugged it off. No proof. No crime. No follow-up. That was the last time we tried involving the cops. After a few moments, a man in his 60s answered. He closed the door. That would explain the precise coordination, the awareness we seemed to have during the blackout, the ability to text, to move, to function, but not to remember. We thanked him, walked away, and someone had placed both our phones, side by side, in the middle of a parking lot, like breadcrumbs. Like whoever was sending them had studied how I talk, how I write, and was replicating it. That level of detail takes time, planning, intent. Still haven't deleted the photos from that weekend. The blurry ones we took during setup, the crowd shots before things went sideways. It's like a timeline that abruptly drops off a cliff. Hey, sorry to bother you. This is kind of a weird question, but do you have a daughter or granddaughter named Marcella? I don't know if I want to open that door. Because if this whole experience taught me anything, it's that things can go very wrong, very fast, even when everything seems perfectly normal on the surface. Because what if the people who did this are still watching? What if they want to know how much I remember? He raised an eyebrow and gave a sharp no. Found some accounts of people waking up far from where they'd started, dressed differently, feeling like they were used somehow. Don't let people convince you it was just alcohol or a bad night. None were identical, but they felt like echoes of ours. I even found a few Reddit threads about weird beach party incidents, but they were vague, like someone got scared and deleted the posts halfway through. I quickly followed up with a half-baked story. Told him we met someone who claimed to live there, that we were trying to figure out what had really happened that night. We'd approached the girls, not the other way around. In Marcella's eyes, when we hesitated to leave, were they nervous? Our phones were returned. Even our clothes, if they'd wanted to strip us down, were they pressured into something? We weren't flashing money, weren't being loud or obnoxious. Every time we talked about it, more little details surfaced. The way Gia's voice had dropped a little right before she handed me the drink. A flash of something, maybe anxiety? Not fear, not even embarrassment. Just this deep, crawling discomfort in my gut. We weren't high profile, and they didn't seem to be after anything of real value anyway. Our cards were never used. If something was supposed to happen to us that didn't, if, for whatever reason, we were let go and humiliate us, why give us someone else's stuff? That was it. Maybe we were given some kind of weird designer drug. Something new, something not even on the market yet. I just want to know what happened. Someone had put us in other people's clothes. What really happened? But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. On the drive back, Ryan and I kept throwing around theories. None of them made sense. Were we targeted? That seemed unlikely. It was like they needed us to disappear temporarily. Organ theft? Some kind of experiment? That sounded crazy. Until it didn't. Jimmy had a theory. I'm not angry in the traditional sense. Maybe someone else has experienced something similar and would come forward. Stay skeptical. Trust my gut when something feels off. But honestly, it still didn't explain everything. Someone had driven us over an hour away. It felt like we were part of the simulation. A dry run. Texts I definitely didn't remember writing. Some were so me it gave me chills. But who is they? We tried contacting the police again. Gave them the address of the house. Showed them the texts. Weeks passed. Then months. Ryan and I tried moving on, but that night stayed with us like a shadow it wouldn't lift. We wondered if we'd interrupted a plan. That question, why, haunts me more than anything. And here's the thing. I don't even want revenge, because something did. I've tried to research similar stories. The digital footprint from that night remains the strangest part. I still have all those messages saved. Sometimes I think about posting the whole story publicly. Or worse, what if they're still testing? And we were just a trial run. All I can do now is stay vigilant. And if something like this has ever happened to you, anything even remotely close, don't brush it off. Because sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes there's something darker behind the blackout.